Executive Vice President of Customer Success at Sage, Chris Rauch, and Violaine Ezekiel, Director of EMEA Customer Success at Box.
Good morning. I know that there's breakouts, so some of you may be disappearing to another session. So just to introduce myself, I'm Chris Rauch. I'm the EVP of Customer Success at Sage, and Violaine is going to be joining me in a second to share with you how to design, staff, and compensate a CS team. And we've got two different perspectives on this, but we will bring it together at the end. What I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to give a few seconds for people to settle, and I'm not going to take it personally that half the room just walked out. You're still here, so thank you. So let me just work this clicker. So while we're settling, just to introduce myself, I have four main things in my career that bring me here with a customer success focus. The first was 10 years at PwC, where as a management consultant, every process I looked at needed to be improved. So for me, it was all about the process. I then spent 7 years at Salesforce, where I learned the whole focus on customer success and how to use a tool to really drive that. I then went to a small startup called Fairsail and grew a customer success function and set that up over a 4-year period until we were acquired by Sage. And now I'm in an organization of 13,000 people with 3 million customers looking after customer success. So I've got a range of experience, and what I'm going to share with you comes from those different perspectives. Before I go on, there is Slido. I think you all got the bit about Slido. We're going to be taking questions. We're allowing some time in this session for questions, so start posting your questions as you think of them. We will get to that session. So how do you hire for customer success? In my view, there are 3 key elements that you need to think about depending on your organization: the domain expertise, the product expertise, or the commercial skills. And depending on your context, one of those circles will be bigger or smaller than the other. I've been in situations when we were at Fairsail, the card we played was product. Let's make our customer success team all about product, because then they can engage with a customer, and Fairsail was an HR solution. So the domain expertise, most of us are people, we get managed, we receive HR processes. You can get away with focusing on product and not having as much domain. I know someone I've worked with in the past who works for a company that provides software for architects and planners. Now, you can't be in a customer success function unless you understand the world of the architect and can speak their language. And therefore, domain expertise is critical in that customer success role. In Sage has a huge range of products. You can't expect colleagues in Sage to know every product, so their focus is commercial. Now, you still have to have other bits of it, but for me, it's about which one of those bubbles is the biggest and how are the other two compare. And that's a good model of thinking about when you staff up your success team, what are you focusing on? But there's one important thing which goes along the bottom, and that's the engagement and relationship skills. And fundamentally, I don't think you can be in this job if you don't realize it's a religion. It's a religion and it's a movement. It's about having faith, it's about having belief, it's about here. And when I interview people for customer success roles, I always ask them a story. So tell me your most amazing customer experience or customer success story. And then I will listen. And to date, I've had some pretty good stories, and I hope he's not in the room, but there was someone who did tell me a long story and said that the reason he thought it was amazing is he got a smiley face on an email. He didn't get the job. I hope he got another job, but he was not. You need to have way more than a smiley face on an email to tell you had a success story. So for me, that engagement and relationship skills is key, and Violaine's going to talk a lot more about that softer side. So moving on to how do you measure? So I think when you need to look at this on a number of different angles, what are we measuring? How do we align those measures with the goals? Who owns that metric? Where do you put that measure on? Is it the success manager? Is it the whole organization? And what time frame do you measure? Because Are you looking backwards? Are you looking forwards? And I think those are key dimensions. So let's take the first one. What do you measure? If you think about this model, in any organization, you have three things you've got to do. You've got to sell, acquire a new customer. You typically have to grow that customer, and then you've got to keep them. And I've seen examples where some success functions are all about the keep. So if you think of the bucket, a success manager's role is to make sure the holes in the bucket are plugged and don't get any bigger. I've also seen success functions where they're allowed to top up stuff in the top by getting the customer to spend more, which is fine as long as you're not topping up more to compensate for holes. You're selling your way out of bad customer success. Just a thought. In Fair Sale, I was only responsible for keep. So when someone went and you had an attrition, you had nowhere to go to fill that gap. Boy, does that keep you focused. If you allow the grow, too much of the grow, then you stick customers for extra stuff they may not need to make up for a hole you may have. So it's always worth, but some organizations, you may not have the choice. And I think for me, it comes down to, within your organization, how much does the incremental revenue matter to your P&L? So do you sell a product to a customer once, one price, they buy the lot, they pay once, and then you just keep them? Or is your product model a mixture of modules where you sell them one thing and then you need to get them on the next module? Or do you upgrade them? Or do you have a range of products that solve different business issues and you land in one area and then you get them into another area and then you get them to another area? It really, if you've got that grow model, then you then have the question, should customer success own the target for extending revenue, or should you get sales to do that? Personally, if I was given a choice, I would go the bottom one. I think customer success as a function, all day long, measure them on keep. I think it's much more effective. I think grubby sales, are there any salespeople in the room? No offense, but there's just one, just the one. He crept in. They're the sell and grow. Let them sell and build. We, in a customer success world, let's do the keep. So with that in mind, then how do we align that renewal rate as the measure of keep? How do you do that? And I've seen organizations, so Fair Sale on the left was, we had the services, implementation services, training, support, and customer success. All 4 departments were measured on renewal rate, one number. So we actually had an implementation team that were not measured on services revenue. Very, very deliberately. So when a customer said, I need to implement this piece of software, we said, okay, we've got some choices here. We can do it, you can do it and we can help you, or we can get a partner to do it. What was driving which one of those 3 choices? My services bookings number was not driving which choice he took. If it was the last week of the quarter and I was missing my services booking number, I would go, well, what you need is to use us because we're better at doing it. And come here, let's sell you that deal. I was in no way motivated to sell them services. I was motivated to make them successful. So let's choose the right option that maximizes your success. And that might be a partner. What does that do to the partner? It gives the partner much more skin in the game. It makes the partner accountable for making them successful, and it makes the partner successful. But I think that having that single target drove a much better behavior. Training became a way of enabling customers. We weren't driving lots of training revenue just for the sake of it. That said, I think in larger organizations, and I've seen in Sage, where you've got many more thousands of colleagues involved in this, you have to run those functions as autonomous functions. So again, if you're slightly smaller, I would lean to the left. If you're in a larger organization, you're probably going to have to go to the right. But bear in mind that the model on the right has inherent conflicts that conflict against customer success. So who owns the number? I'm going to try a show of hands. Who here works in where they have a team number? Team number? Who carries a number individually? That was about a third, 2/3. Both of these have merits, and they both have consequences. If you're doing a team number, you're much better able to get those tricky customers. Someone wants to take them on, and it's the tricky ones that will make you successful. The ones that you save. If you've got individual targets, who's going to want that customer that has been giving us hell for the last 2 years and isn't going to renew, and that you've got to do everything to put lots of calories in there to keep them? On an individual number, no one's going to want that. On a team number, they are going to want it. That said, you've got a team in Sage. In Newcastle, there are probably 70 to 100 people in the loyalty function. I need those 70 people individually accountable for their performance every day. We used to have a team number. We turned to an individual number. The renewal rate moved 2% up because people were coming to work, were held to account on their number every day of the week. So again, for me, it's about that variation between the smaller and being aware of rescuing customers, and on the larger, about having that accountability within a larger organization and minimizing performance variation, which if you've got a large team, you need people held to account. So when do we count a renewal? Let me try this. So who here would count a renewal as happening when it's booked? Who would count it when it's actually paid the bill? And you know what's interesting is if you've got a CFO in the room, they don't care about confirmed, they care about paid. The tricky bit is timing. Because if you're not going to write off, if your payment is 60 days late and you confirm the renewal today, do you count it as booked and hang on, do you reverse the revenue out, and how do you hold people to account on a monthly rate when you've got a 60-day lag? And I think there isn't a right answer here, but be very mindful between confirmed and paid. And in Sage, we have this comment that paid is not paid until it's paid. Because if you've got large volumes and people are confirming a renewal but not giving you the money, and you have to reverse that out, what does that do to your renewal rate? So again, it's a decision point you need to think about when deciding, are you measuring on bookings or are you measuring on revenue and collections? Do you as a business have a collections challenge with your customers where they just don't cough up? Have you got smart ways of getting money off them to ensure that? So another dimension is this concept of the rearview mirror and the forward-looking. So again, just a straw poll, how many people here only know their renewal rate that's happened? I don't know what it's going to be in an accurate way. So they're looking in the rearview mirror and they get reports on my renewal rate was. How many people here have a view going forward of the renewal rate for the rest of this year and next? Yep, reasonable. And I think the challenge is we've got tools are often not in place to give us that forecast. And just having a historic renewal rate is interesting, but if you want to target your activity and your focus, you need to have that forward-looking view. But that forward-looking view is tough, and you need the right tool to be able to track and manage that renewal rate and looking forward view. And again, I've been in Fair Sale, we were lucky enough, we could see the renewal rate for the entire financial year at the beginning of the financial year and get it accurate to within 0.5%. Because every single customer's forecast renewal rate was logged, tracked, had a plan against it. If they were telling us they were going to go or they were telling us they weren't happy, we reduced their renewal rate. We could then track, manage, prioritize, and focus our work. It gave us a much more proactive view. If you're in larger organizations, sometimes it's all about what was the renewal rate. It's much harder to get ahead of it. So in summary, for me, it's about tuning your approach depending on your customer base, how big, how small it is, your product mix, is it a single product, is it diverse, about the commercial drivers, where is the imperative, where do you make your money, and do you have the tools in place? And if you think of this as a series of sliders, and if you were making a decision about how to measure customer success, in my experience, it's about thinking about it on each of these dimensions and making a call on how we want to do it. Because there isn't one right answer, but there are consequences of choices you make. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my colleague Violaine, who's going to give you a slightly different perspective on the debate. Violaine, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Violaine. I'm Director of Customer Success at Box, and I'm also the co-founder of Customer Success Network, which is a community of customer success practitioners across Europe as well, aiming at evangelizing around CS across Europe and making sure we can promote talents in the customer success function. So today, as a reminder, we're going to talk about how to design, staff, and compensate a CS team. So I believe Chris took the angle of the renewals and how it sits into the organization, and also about the compensation plan. Now I'm going to take another angle, which is more around how to actually become a best-in-class customer success team, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks around how to achieve this. So I'm going to do that through 4 main areas. First one being the structure of the team, the second one being the hiring, the third one being the enablement, and last one, not least, the incentives or how to motivate your team. So starting with the first area. So there's no ideal structure for a customer success function. It depends on the size of your company, on the maturity of your company as well. Usually a CS function or department is made of 3 components: user services or customer service, professional services or consulting, and customer success management. Now once you have that, obviously you have different roles and responsibilities and different metrics. However, what really, really matters is to have one shared goal, because you need to have it clear to actually achieve that goal and that mission to succeed, and again, achieve that desired outcome of your customers. So the thing is, at Box, we have that motto, we have that shared goal that our CCO, John Hustin, put in place, which is about empowering and inspiring our customers to do amazing things with Box. And we all believe in that as part of the CS function, whether we are a user services agent, a high-touch CSM, or a change management consultant. We all believe in that, and we all do that by doing our job. So by implementing new use cases, by deploying licenses, by finding new sophisticated use cases as well, we all believe in that. And so when you look at the structure at Box, so again, you can see this is very typical in a way. So professional services, user services, CSM. We have a bit of customer experience as well, which shows that customer centricity is at the core of Box values as well. And you can see that our CCO reports to our COO. Ultimately, the COO is accountable for the growth of the company. So she, because it's a she also has the sales into her scope, which is then around the net new ARR, right? While the CS function is more around the net retention and gross retention. Now what's very interesting in that structure is that, as you can see, the renewals function reports to our CCO, which actually helps us connect the dots and the gaps between the CS function and the sales function. So we've actually stolen some best practices from the sales people to have some more discipline and rigor around some of our processes with the renewals team. So for example, we put in place some churn forecast discipline around that, the same way the salespeople are doing their pipeline and commit forecast calls, etc. We're doing the same thing with CS and renewals together. So we're actually bringing discipline and rigor around that, and we're building credibility as well towards the sales function. So in terms of connecting the 2 teams and the 2 worlds, it's super efficient. Again, this is not an ideal structure, it's just to give you like something or some idea around how you can structure. But there's no ideal structure. As long as you have a shared goal, that's what matters. So now that you have your structure and your shared goal, what about hiring strong profiles? You need to have strong people in your team, obviously, if you want to have a successful team. But again, you won't be able to find a unicorn from day one. Unicorn like someone speaking French and German, being a super solutions architect, or having super strategic conversations with customers. That doesn't exist. So you have to make compromises or make choices as well. What really matters, though, is the soft skills. Soft skills is the new hiring. You need to focus on that in your interviews. I went to Paris beginning of October to an event organized by a French association to evangelize around customer success into traditional industries. And there was one topic in the roundtables which was around hiring. Most of the people in the room were saying, I no longer rely on the resumes, I rely on the conversations and the candid conversations I'm having with candidates around their soft skills. I want to have an exchange with them. I don't want to test them on their product expertise or domain expertise because they can learn that. And it's going to be part of something else, which is around training. So product expertise, domain expertise is not something you should look at when hiring, but you should look at communication skills and also about active listening. Active listening is something that I'm really, really looking for when I'm interviewing people because it gives you the visibility on their ability to be coached and coachable. If they are not able to receive constructive feedback, they won't be able to grow, they won't be able to learn quickly as well. So it's going to be a miss. Same thing with the challenger mindset. By challenger mindset, I mean they should see a gap or a problem, they should find a workaround to overcome that obstacle. And it's also about challenging the status quo with the customer. And by doing that, by having those kind of soft skills, you can have a team that can go the extra mile as well. On top of those soft skills, if you're super clear on how you're looking at for a candidate, you have a clear job desk with roles and responsibilities. You have a very strong hiring process. So at Box, for example, we have 2 phone calls, we have 3 one-to-one interviews on site, plus a demo with some very precise prompts, etc. for each role. Then you can really, really hire strong profiles. Now, hiring them is not enough. And obviously, you want to turn them into unicorns because you want them to be unique, you want them to be perfect and to outperform as well. I'm very, very passionate about enablement because I believe this is how you can empower people, you can arm them to do more, to do better, to be successful. And enablement is, again, is a lot about common sense, but you need some structured process anywhere around it. You need content, obviously. So product expertise is going to be there. Competition as well. Soft skills as well. You still need to make them grow, right? So communication skills, negotiation skills, if you have some renewal or commercial thing in your role as well, those are vital. Role-based training as well. You're a CSM, you need to know how to use Gainsight, what processes around that. You need Salesforce as well. You might need Zendesk. How does it work? How does everything around risk mitigation work as well? So you need to be trained on that. Now, what I really, really like as well in terms of content is customer tactics. How can you share best practices within your team? So I've put that in place at Box since I joined, where every month we're regrouping as a team. We take one topic, be it, I don't know, customer being unresponsive, stakeholders mapping, account research, and we just share what we've been practicing with our customers, and we just make sure we can actually apply that on the field afterwards. Because what matters is also to have CTAs at the end, key takeaways and calls to action. If you're just having sessions where people talk and do nothing with that afterwards, there's no point. It's like pointless. No need to do that. It needs to be applied on the field. And what is good as well with those custom tactics sessions is that it's a monthly session. So you have a cadence. The team knows it's happening every single month. They know they have to invest that time and energy in that session. So when you're looking at your enablement framework, think about the cadence. Think about planning that ahead, a quarter ahead, 2 quarters ahead, as much as possible, and have CTAs to make sure they apply it on the field. To make that viable as well, you need managers to do the coaching. You need managers to make sure it's applied on the field. So it's their duty to make sure they're doing it. So reviewing the business reviews deck, making sure the customer meetings are well prepared, well rehearsed, etc. This is their duty, and you need to have this framework in place as well for the managers. I've put as well an element of trust on that slide, because I believe if you want your team to be perfectly enabled, you need to create that safe room and that safe environment for them to either learn more, make mistakes, fail fast, but then grow and learn and be super successful. So that trust thing, as a leader, you need to think about that as well when you think about enablement. So enablement can be a great thing to help motivate your team as well, because they're going to grow, they're going to learn, so they're going to be super bankable afterwards for another job opportunity. Now, we have other incentives as well. Obviously, money can be one, but we have also some other levers that we can use to motivate the team. Now, what really matters is not just the incentive per se, but the behavior associated to that incentive. Because if you put a wrong behavior associated to an incentive, it's going to be bad. And as you can see in that quote, this is not what we expected. This is, as a leader, you need to drive the right behavior with your team. You need to think strategically about the incentives, not about short outcomes. It's not about having an issue and then saying, okay, I'm going to put a bonus on that team to fix it. No, this is not how it's working. You need to think about it in a strategic way. So you know the basic ways of doing compensation plans, so the basic 3 models, basic salary and variable, basic salary and bonus. Obviously, there's no one-size-fits-all. First reason being that potentially in your team you have people with commercial responsibilities. In that case, a variable comp plan might make sense. However, I would really recommend not going too fast and not going through that road at the beginning. Think about it very thoroughly first, and think about having a base salary with a bonus at some point. I think that's the best option at the moment to really compensate and motivate a team. But whatever model you choose, think about having strong MBOs or strong objectives for the team to actually understand how they can outperform. Because you don't want your team just to perform. You want them to be even stronger, even better than just that. So you need to motivate them by giving them the direction, the guidance through objectives. And as a leader, obviously, you have, yes, these three models in hands to actually motivate your team, but you have other levers. So you can do cross-functional bonus stuff as well. For example, at Box, we have a shared bonus between the Box consulting team and our CSM team. So having a shared target actually helps, and it's something long-term as well. You can think about career progression or career path. So how can you make sure you make them grow in terms of this is the next level, these are the expectations and the competencies you need to get to reach that level. This is how it could work. You have also everything around the awards. So at Box, same thing. Every quarter, we have some awards in terms of work ethic or personal recognition that actually is very, very positive for the work environment. Again, back to the safe room and safe environment you're trying to create for your team. So I think that's pretty much it for me. I'm going to call Chris back on stage to do the key takeaways together.
Good,
Hi there.
thank you.
So in terms of key takeaways, I would say from both our presentations, customer success is not really rocket science. It's a lot of common sense. There's no ideal structures. There's no ideal compensation plans. There's no ideal hiring profile, etc. So it's really about you. It really depends on your environment, your industry, the maturity of your company as well. It's just about having tips and tricks today to help you just maybe frame your ideas in a better way. But it's not about like having a very strong science on how to build customer success.
Cool, thank you. And I think the other thing, the second point, you can't do this unless you're organized. And I think you have to have the right tools in place. You have to have clarity on what's the forward-looking view on your customers so you can focus your efforts and prioritize what you do. For me, that is key to driving the right team and having people in your team that can organize their day, their week, their month, and their focus. Yeah.
And as I said as well earlier, the soft skills are the new hiring. And back to that discipline, that rigor, organization that we need as well as a CS function, we need those people to be active listeners. We need those people to be challengers as well in their mindset so that we can really build those strong and successful teams.
And I think the final point for me is Nick said it in the keynote this morning, that it's about the CEO setting the tone. And this is about a mindset. And you as customer success managers, as customer success leaders, you need to set the right tone for your entire organization to understand that setting customers up for success is in the best interests of the company, its shareholders, and its value. And I think that priority and that mindset is key to all of this. And hiring people that get the mindset and that don't think a smiley face on an email is success. It's way more than that. So that was what we were going to share now. We've now got plenty of time for questions. So there are some on Slido.
Yeah.
I think they're going to come up.
So, yeah, on screen, I think.
As if by magic. Are we going to see them?
I don't know.
Then they're on
yes,
that.
I think they're here. Okay.
Is there any, at the back, is there any chance we can have them on the little screen here? What's your, we're going to have to jump off the stage.
What's your go-to top interview question you ask candidates?
What's yours?
What's mine? I think one of my favorite is what makes you wake up in the morning and go to work. Is it about having customer conversations? Is it about something else, fixing a problem whatsoever? I need to understand what's the energy behind the candidate so that I understand whether or not there's a fit as well with what I'm expecting from someone.
I always ask about 3/4 of the way through, if you had 10 days of time to invest in your growth, what would you spend it on? Because I want to know what kind of person they are and what they want to focus on growing. And I always find out where their chink in their armor is. And if they say they want to learn about customer success, for me, that needs to be a given. So ask them what they'd invest 10 days of time in would be my killer question.
So how do you figure out if someone has a challenger mindset in an interview? So it's basically, you can feel it in the way you frame your questions and the way that person is going to answer. So the thing is, when we're doing the interview process at Box, we're having, as I said, a demo prompt, where, for example, for a CSM, they have to present a standard business review. I can see from the beginning whether or not they understand how to do the research on the customer ecosystem, and now they can actually challenge the status quo with the customer. So asking questions during the session, making sure they've understood the use cases, the customer business, and if they've done the connection between the solution and the use cases. That's what I meant by challenger mindset.
For me, it would be what questions do they ask? And I want to know the level of insight they pitch. And if they're asking me questions that are on my website, nah. If they're asking me about whether they get an extra day's holiday, no. I want to know their questions about what the customer challenges we face in the organization, to see if they're trying to get one level beneath about what the real job is about. So it's their questions. And I don't have any is not a good question.
Okay, do you have a good test of active listening skills? So good test, not really. I think, again, it's really about the questions. It's about the attitude as well and the behavior you can see in the room. So you can see so I remember I had a candidate like some time ago, was really candidly show off in the presentation and in the room. And it's something that when you were asking questions, he was never questioning himself. He was doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And that's something that, to me, is a bad sign, because I'm like, okay, he's not going to receive feedback in a good way. He's not going to apply it and make sure he can change his behavior. That's something that is really around the questions he can ask and the way he's going to return the questions as well.
Active listening. I did have a thought then. It'll come back to me. I'll come back to it. It's gone from my head. What's the next one? We'll come back to that one.
For you, Chris, what are your suggestions or experience for compensating a team where renewals are not a factor?
So if renewals aren't a factor, it's quite difficult. My sense is renewals are a proxy for the commercial imperative. So if renewals are not a factor and it's about, you need some financial metric that makes the customer success team relevant to the CFO, in my view. You need something. So if it isn't renewals, then monthly subscriptions. Then flip it the other way. It's the attrition. The flip side of renewals is containing attrition. So reducing the attrition from, if attrition's 5%, 10%, having targets to get that down so less customers go. Simple.
What are the top ways to incentivize CSM without financial rewards? So, as I said, I think the thing is, like, career path and promotion is indeed some financial awards, to be fair. You have awards that are people awards, leadership awards. At Box, we have a Blau Customers' Minds type of award as well, like every quarter. So if they had, like, for example, a fantastic use case at a customer or very strong customer relationship as well, this is something we're going to recognize in a whole hands, a global whole hands as well, where that person is going to be, like, recognized in front of all of her or his peers. So that's the kind of thing that is actually quite appreciated by the teams at Box, so something that I would recommend as well, and not so difficult to put in place as well.
I know it's stating the blindingly obvious, but saying thank you and doing it personally. So one of the things that I've always done is if someone in my team does something amazing, I will send them an email to them and only them that I will take time to think about what I write in there and acknowledge it. I've even done situations where I'll handwrite a card, Because I think there's something about, if you want to incentivize and motivate individuals, the kind of people that work in customer success, they aren't, if you're all about the number, you'd probably go and get a sales job. You're here because you care, and you care about customers. So someone actually taking the time to care about you is a massive incentive. So I would encourage the thing that you instinctively know, I'd like to be told that is worth its weight in gold.
Yep. Experienced CSMs are rare. What do you look for in people with zero CSM experience? To be fair, I'm not really looking for people with CSM experience when I'm looking for a CSM. I don't really care if they've been into customer service, if they've been in consulting. Actually, I'm looking for people in consulting, to be honest, as well. So I'm not really looking about that experience. I think it's more around an acknowledgement of like the SaaS environment, subscription environment, cloud as well, technology, that kind of stuff, rather than just CSM. Again, not rocket science as a field, so they can learn. So back to the active listening, challenger mindset, if they have those skills, then they can like rock as a CSM.
I'd go back to those 3 bubbles and the one beneath, and actually, they need to have some either domain, product, or commercial skills. If they haven't got any of those, they need a bit of it. But actually, it's energy and passion and relationship skills. But those can't be founded on zip, because otherwise you end up with a person in front of a customer who's all nice and great, but not actually any use. So you need some element of those top 3 bubbles that I talked about.